Early voting is underway, and we are less than 2 weeks away from the primary election, the first primary contest in the country.
And if history once again repeats itself, voter turnout could be low. The Night Beat's Michael Perchick joins us live from the state capitol with more on that trend. Michael?
Mike and Quita, some of our country's most prominent leaders have emerged from Texas, from Lyndon Johnson to Presidents George H.W. and W. Bush. Despite the success on the national stage, Texas has consistently ranked near the bottom of the country when it comes to voting rates. Just how bad is it, and what can be done to reverse that trend?
If you live in Texas, you know all too well that more people move here than to any other state. We've seen cities big and once small practically explode overnight. Common sense would dictate more people means more voters. Yet despite the massive population influx, voting rates in Texas remain fairly stagnant, which politely means they lag behind most of the country.
For the size and importance of Texas and how important it is in the Congress, how important it is in determining the presidency, it is a state that votes very, very low, to the point of almost being an embarrassment.
Dr. Brian Smith, a political science professor at St. Edward's University, isn't mincing words when it comes to voter turnout. According to the Texas Almanac, the last time more than 50% of Texas adults voted in a presidential election was the year 1900. In 2016, just over 46% of voters came out.
We do not have a lot of competitive elections, and election competitiveness gets people out to the polls. It gets people very, very excited.
Dr. Smith is quick to note, when Republicans and Democrats win, they tend to do so solidly. UT history professor Jeremy Suri says that tradition of apathy due to a lack of competition could be fading away after surprising results in Virginia and Alabama.
People, first of all, recognize these are close elections and their votes count, but also they feel the stakes are quite large.
And a case the U.S. Supreme Court is now reviewing could make things even more competitive. A lower court ruled lawmakers in Texas discriminated when drawing voting maps in 11 political districts.
If the Supreme Court or even a series of state courts and federal courts step in, we could see massive changes in 2018 in the nature of the congressional races and the state house races.
Suri points to these maps as a tool for politicians, a way they could pick the voters instead of voters picking them. While a change in voting maps could affect larger scale races, Texans haven't shown much interest in voting in local races either. A 2015 study by Portland State University found dismal results in major Texas cities for mayoral elections. Houston set the watermark at 18%, beating us here in Austin, which clocked in at 13%. That rate was still better than San Antonio's, 11%, and more than double Dallas's, which came in at 6%, tied for the lowest of any city included in the study. So should government officials step in to try and increase those numbers?
The thought is government should play no role at all in turnout. What we should do is make resources as available as possible to our voters so that they can have convenient and fully accessible opportunities.
When it comes to people actually signing up to vote, Travis County Clerk Dana DeBeauvoir says voter registration in the county exceeds 90%. Statewide, the percentage has fluctuated from more than 85% in 2000 to as low as 71% in 2010. Once registered, DeBeauvoir believes people should take advantage of early voting.
The ideal arrangement is to have a little bit more of your vote, say between 50 and 60% in early voting.
In the November 2017 constitutional amendment election, 59% of voters in Travis County waited until Election Day to cast their ballot, far higher than the preferred rate. DeBeauvoir says her office created an app for people to find voting locations, check how busy they are, and minimize the time people wait to cast their ballots. Still, she says voting is a personal experience, which means it's up to each individual to choose whether or not they want to participate.
Suri also points to low education rates, access to voting booths, particularly in rural areas, and voter ID laws as deterrents Texans have faced. A report from UT showed Texans ranked last in the country when it comes to discussing politics, often with family and friends. Still, there are signs voters may be more engaged during this season. The Texas Tribune reports voter registration has increased by 1.7 million people over the past 4 years, outpacing the population growth of the state. Live from the Capitol, I'm Michael Perchick, KVUE News Night Beat.